Did you know there's a place on Earth so gigantic you can see it from space? Today, we're diving into that wonder, and trust me, you'll want a front row seat.
Wait, you mean the Great Barrier Reef, right? Because my trip there was honestly one of the wildest adventures I've ever had.
That's exactly it, Sophie. I'm Lily, and joining me today is Sophie, fresh from her Australian escape. Today, we're taking you along to the world's largest coral reef, plus all the little surprises along the way.
We'll spill the details on arriving in Cairns, what it's really like to meet an Aussie taxi driver, and why you might want to swim in a pool instead of the ocean.
And just wait until you hear about Sophie's boat trip out to the reef, plus her first lesson in Aussie English. Ready? Let's get started. 9 hours on a plane, that's no joke. Did you have any wild seat neighbors, or was it a smooth ride?
Honestly, it was quieter than I expected. I ended up sandwiched between a grandma who knitted the whole time and a guy who watched sports. 3 movies later, and I barely noticed the hours ticking by.
Sounds almost relaxing. Did you get any sleep, or was the chicken and rice too distracting?
Sleep was basically impossible. But hey, airplane food always tastes better mid-adventure, right? I was just excited to finally land and see what Cairns was like.
What hit you first when you stepped out of the airport? That feeling can totally set the mood for a trip.
It was like opening an oven door, but in a good way. The air felt thick and warm, like I was walking into a giant greenhouse. I could almost taste the humidity.
I love that description. There's something magical about tropical places when you feel the air on your skin and realize you're really far from home.
Completely. It woke me right up after that long flight. I was suddenly ready for adventure, even before I left the airport parking lot.
So tell me about your taxi driver. You mentioned he greeted you with a classic Aussie line.
He sure did. The first thing I hear is, "G'day, mate." It totally threw me for a second. I actually wondered if I'd gotten into the wrong car.
That's such a perfect introduction. Did you try using "g'day" yourself after that?
After a while, yes. It felt funny at first, but everyone says it. Honestly, it made me smile each time. It was such a warm welcome to Australia.
All right, you've survived the flight and mastered your first Aussie greeting. What was your hotel like?
It was simple but clean, and the staff were super friendly. I loved that my room had a tiny balcony where I could hear birds calling, so different from city life back home.
That sounds peaceful. Did you have a moment to just sit out there and soak it all in?
Absolutely. I dropped my bags and just stood out there for a while, listening and watching the sky slowly change colors. It really set the mood for adventure.
Was Cairns what you expected? I imagine something between a small town and a tourist hub.
You're pretty much spot on. It's relaxed, with lots of little cafes and people walking everywhere. Not many tall buildings, nothing like a big city skyline.
That sounds really inviting. Did it feel easy to get around?
Very. You can walk almost everywhere. And instead of traffic noise, you hear music from street performers and the splash of water by the lagoon.
This lagoon, you mentioned what makes a giant swimming pool next to the ocean so special?
It's all about safety. The ocean around Cairns sometimes has crocodiles or jellyfish, so the lagoon gives everyone a place to swim, relax, and cool off without worry.
Swimming with crocodiles? Yeah, I'll stick to the pool. What's the view like from the lagoon?
It's beautiful. You can see the ocean and palm trees, and there are families, travelers, and even locals just unwinding there all day.
I'm curious, did you see any warning signs? I've heard Australian beaches take their wildlife seriously.
Oh, definitely. There are big signs about jellyfish, especially the dangerous box jellyfish, and the locals are super careful. No one goes in the ocean during jellyfish season without a special suit.
That's intense. So it's not just crocodiles you need to watch out for.
Exactly. Australia really keeps you on your toes. Even tiny creatures can be a big deal.
Besides "g'day, mate," did you notice any other fun Aussie habits or phrases while you explored Cairns?
People shorten everything. For example, afternoon becomes arvo. And they're so upbeat, everyone chats with strangers, which made me feel really welcome.
That friendliness makes travel so much better. Did you try picking up any of their slang for yourself?
A little. I still laugh when I remember the driver saying, "No worries." It's their go-to phrase for absolutely everything.
Before we get to the reef itself, how did you plan your trip out there? Is it easy to book a boat tour?
Super easy. Cairns has tons of tour companies. I just walked into a shop downtown and booked a spot for the next day. They explain everything and even lend you gear.
That's reassuring. So even if you arrive with no plan, you can join a trip last minute?
Totally. They're used to travelers dropping in. I was a little nervous, but the staff made it feel simple and safe.
How did it feel waking up on the day of your reef trip? Was it excitement or more like butterflies in your stomach?
A mix of both. I barely slept. I was so excited, but I kept thinking, what if I get seasick? Or, what if I drop my phone in the water?
That would be my worry too. Did you do anything special to get ready?
Just double-checked my bag a million times: swimsuit, sunscreen, camera, snacks, the essentials.
Describe the boat ride. Was the water as blue as I imagine?
Even bluer. It started off a bit choppy, and a few people turned a little green, but once we got out there, the sea was sparkling. You could see little islands in the distance.
That sounds incredible. Did the crew point out anything along the way?
Definitely. They told stories about the reef, showed us where to spot turtles, and even gave fun facts about the coral. It made the trip fly by.
What was your first thought when you finally saw the reef up close?
It almost didn't look real. The colors were so bright: turquoise, green, and flashes of orange. I actually had to blink a few times to take it all in.
Did you jump right into the water? Or did you hesitate?
I hesitated for about 5 seconds, and then I just went for it. It was like swimming in a living painting.
What kind of animals did you see? Any close encounters with something surprising?
So many. Little clownfish, giant clams, and even a sea turtle swimming by. I was so stunned I forgot to take a photo.
Sometimes the best moments are the ones you don't capture on camera. Did you feel nervous at all, being in the middle of the ocean?
For a second, yes. But then I remembered how lucky I was to be there. It felt like I was part of another world for a little while.
That was a whirlwind journey, Sophie. So, what are our big takeaways from your Australian adventure?
First, the Great Barrier Reef feels even more magical in person. No photo can truly capture it. Second, Aussie culture is super friendly, but their slang takes a moment to understand. And third, always respect the wildlife. Crocodiles and jellyfish are no joke.
Perfect summary. For everyone listening, if you're dreaming of travel, maybe start by learning a local greeting or two like "G'day" and be ready for some surprises.
And if you ever get the chance, book that boat trip. Jump in. The world under the water might just change how you see things. Thanks for having me, Lily.
Thank you for sharing your adventure, Sophie. And thanks to everyone for listening. Don't forget to take a small step toward your own dream trip this week. See you next time on the Simple English Podcast. Picture this, a golden sunrise in Cairns. Your heart pounding because today's the day you visit the Great Barrier Reef. Sophie, we left off just as you woke up. What went through your mind that first morning?
Honestly, I barely slept. I shot out of bed at 6 a.m., stuffed my swimsuit and t-shirt on, and just slathered on sunscreen like my life depended on it.
You weren't kidding about the sunscreen. For anyone who's never been, the Aussie sun isn't just strong, it's relentless. I bet skipping that step would have turned you bright red in no time.
It's wild 10 minutes outside there and you're basically a tomato. Not the look I was after for my holiday photos. The sunscreen was my secret weapon before anything else.
So with sunscreen armor on, you set off. Tell us about arriving at the marina. Was it as busy and colorful as I picture it?
It was buzzing. Boats bobbing everywhere, from tiny fishing dinghies to sleek, powerful speedboats. But mine was this huge catamaran called the Blue Ocean, and it looked like it belonged in a movie.
Catamaran, that's such a fun word. For everyone wondering, that's spelled C-A-T-A-M-A-R-A-N, right?
You got it. 2 hulls underneath, which makes it super stable. Honestly, I was grateful for that, especially since I get a bit anxious about wobbly boats.
That's actually reassuring. I get nervous about choppy water too. But I'm curious, did the captain offer any tips before setting off?
Absolutely. Before we even left the dock, he basically waved a box of seasickness pills at the crowd and said, "Trust me, take one if you're unsure."
Classic move! Did you consider it at that point, or were you feeling brave?
I went full bravado and thought, no need, I'm invincible. Spoiler alert, I was not.
I can already sense where this is going. How long before the waves proved you wrong?
About 30 minutes in, everything changed. The boat started rocking like a roller coaster, and my stomach was seriously not amused.
Oof, that sinking feeling. Was anyone else looking a bit green around you?
Oh, totally. My friend's face went sheet white. We exchanged these, "Are we going to survive?" looks and just tried to breathe slowly.
That actually reminds me, deep breathing is such a solid trick for nausea. Did it help keep things under control while you waited it out?
It helped more than I expected. I closed my eyes, focused on breathing in and out, and just rode it out. Eventually, the queasiness eased up.
That's a lifesaver tip for listeners gearing up for their own first boat ride. How much longer did you have to endure before things improved?
The trip was about 2 hours, but after the first hour, something incredible happened and completely distracted me.
Now you've got me curious, what snapped you out of the seasick haze?
The water. All of a sudden, it shifted from a deep navy to this unreal turquoise. It looked like someone had dyed the ocean. I could see straight down to the sandy bottom.
Turquoise, spelled Turquoise, by the way, is one of those colors you really have to see to believe. Did it hit you then that you'd really arrived?
Exactly. I forgot I felt sick. I was too busy staring at that blue, shouting, "Look, the reef," to anyone who'd listen.
That's the kind of excitement you want on a Great Barrier Reef adventure. So, was there an island nearby? Or what did you see when the boat stopped?
No island, just this massive floating platform called a pontoon. Imagine a giant, stable floor anchored right in the middle of the ocean. That's where we docked.
I love that idea, a floating playground in the open water. What was the mood like as everyone disembarked?
Everyone was buzzing from excitement. There were people from all over the world, and everyone started getting ready for their big underwater moment.
That actually makes me think, what did everyone wear to get ready for exploring the reef?
We all squeezed into wetsuits, those sleek black suits made of rubber. Even with the sun beating down, those things were necessary because the water can surprise you with how chilly it is.
Wait, so the wetsuit isn't just for warmth?
Nope, it's double duty. It's also your shield against tiny jellyfish stingers that can really mess up your day if you're not protected.
Stingers sound ominous. For folks who've never heard of them, just how dangerous are these jellyfish?
They're sneaky. Sometimes you don't even see them. They're tiny, but they pack a punch. Some can be super painful, others are actually dangerous, so the wetsuit really is non-negotiable for safety.
So basically, the wetsuit is your superhero costume for the day. Did you feel ready to dive in once you were suited up?
Almost. I took a moment to look around at everyone else in their superhero gear too. We kind of looked like a squad, heading into battle with the reef as our adventure.
At that point, did you feel nervous at all? Or was it all excitement?
A little bit of both. The open ocean stretched forever in every direction, and I honestly felt pretty tiny in comparison. But then, a flash of color caught my attention and snapped me out of it.
What was it? Something swimming by?
A huge blue and yellow fish cruised past the pontoon. It was almost like it was welcoming us to its home.
That sounds incredible. Do you know what kind of fish it was?
It was a parrotfish. They're wild, huge, colorful, and their mouths looked just like a beak. I had no idea fish could be so quirky.
A fish with a bird's mouth nature really does have a sense of humor. Did spotting it make you feel more at ease about getting into the water?
Definitely. I started to feel like I was stepping into a whole new world, not just a big scary ocean.
So before you even dipped a toe in, the pontoon became your base camp. What was it like moving around on this floating platform?
Surprisingly steady. There were tables, benches, even a lunch spot. People milled around, organizing their gear, chatting, or just staring at the water in awe.
It almost sounds like a party on the water, just with everyone eyeing the sea instead of a dance floor.
That's exactly it. There was this mix of nervous energy and excitement, all centered around what was waiting below the surface.
As you stood there, wetsuit on, ocean stretching out, what was the last thing going through your mind before you took the plunge?
I took a deep breath and just tried to soak it all in. I kept thinking, this is it, the Great Barrier Reef. Still, I had butterflies, but sometimes a little nervousness just means something amazing is about to happen.
I love that. Sometimes the best adventures start with a few jitters. So, you're at the edge, ready to meet the underwater world. What's next?
Well, let's just say I was about to meet a very famous fish and make some unforgettable memories. But that's a story for part 3.
You're leaving us on a cliffhanger, but honestly, I'm hooked. Give us a sneak peek. What can listeners look forward to when we dive into part 3?
Get ready for Nemo. I'll share what it's like to swim among the coral, meet clownfish, and maybe even spot a turtle. There's way more color and surprise under the surface than I ever expected.
That sounds magical. If you've ever wondered what it's like to come face to face with the reef's most iconic residents, you won't want to miss it.
The underwater world is a whole different universe. I promise it's worth the wait.
Before we wrap part 2, let's hit 3 key takeaways first. The Great Barrier Reef adventure really begins before you even get in the water. Second, being prepared sunscreen, seasickness, meds, wetsuit makes all the difference. And third, sometimes the anticipation and jitters are just part of the journey.
Absolutely. And if you're thinking of your own adventure, my best advice is don't skip the prep gear up, listen to the local experts, and let yourself feel excited, nerves, and all.
So true. To everyone listening, your action step this week: plan a mini adventure near you, even if it's just exploring somewhere new in your hometown. Get out of your comfort zone.
Thanks for joining us on this journey, and don't forget to tune in to part 3 for the underwater magic and Nemo's big debut.
Splash! Can you picture us finally standing on that floating pontoon, wetsuits zipped up? Sophie, you honestly look ready to save the world. But what comes next in this Great Barrier Reef adventure?
I'm ready for action. But honestly, before anything, I have to grab my snorkel gear. Without it, you're just a superhero in funny pants, staring at the water.
Snorkel gear. Let's break that down for everyone just starting out. What exactly goes into a snorkel set?
You get 3 essentials. First is the mask, which hugs your face so you can see all the underwater magic. Then there's the snorkel, basically a bendy tube. The mouthpiece is in your mouth. The top sticks way up so you breathe air, even with your face underwater.
Wait, so you're not exactly breathing like a fish, right?
No gills for me? You get to keep your face underwater, but you're still breathing air from above. It's weird at first, your brain panics a bit. The third part is fins, those big flappy things, like giant duck feet strapped to your legs.
I love the duck feet comparison. Do fins really make you faster, or do you just look silly while kicking around?
Oh, you move so much easier. The trick is not to splash your arms, just gentle kicks with your legs. It feels effortless, like you're gliding more than swimming.
So, mask, tube, and duck feet check. Now, did you do a dramatic cannonball, or?
No cannonballs this time. There are stairs leading into the water, which is way friendlier. I just slid in, sat on a step, and slowly put my face in. But I'll admit, I was nervous. My brain screamed, "Can you really breathe? What if something's lurking beneath you?"
That first breath must be nerve-wracking. And, did you actually spot anything scary, like a shark?
You won't believe it, I did see a shark. But it was a tiny reef shark, and it just lay on the sand, totally relaxed. Our guide told me reef sharks are the cats of the ocean. They're shy and not interested in humans at all.
A cat shark! That's way more comforting than a movie-style monster. So after the shark, you finally looked under the water. What did you see first?
It was a burst of color everywhere. I used to think coral was just rock, but it's alive. Some looked like brains, some like tiny trees, purple, yellow, pink like an artist spilled paint at the bottom of the sea.
It sounds like wandering through a fairy tale garden, but underwater. Were there any familiar fish swimming around?
I was determined to find Nemo, that little clownfish from the movie. I asked the guide, and he pointed to a patch of soft, swaying sea anemone. Imagine underwater grass, just waving with the current.
So, was Nemo actually hiding out in his anemone home?
He was, just a tiny orange guy, smaller than my finger, peeking out from the waving tentacles. He had those bright white stripes and these huge, curious eyes staring right at me.
Did your new friend say hi, or was he shy?
He didn't talk, but he totally performed. He swam up and down like he was putting on a show. I just floated there, spellbound, watching him dance for 10 whole minutes. Honest truth, it's one of my happiest memories.
That sounds incredible and peaceful. When you looked around, could you see far, or was it all a blur?
The water was unbelievably clear, like looking through glass. I could see 20 meters ahead. Easy. Right then, I spotted a giant clam. Seriously, it was almost a meter wide, with a neon blue rim, like something from Alice in Wonderland.
A giant clam with a blue lip. Did it feel dangerous, or was it more like a gentle giant?
Totally gentle. They move so slowly, you can barely tell. If you get too close, the shell just closes a few centimeters, like it's bashful, definitely not looking to snack on toes.
So, between Nemo, sharks that act like cats, and clams that hide, the reef is a whole cast of characters. Did you see big groups of fish too?
Absolutely. Fish everywhere, sometimes swimming alone, often in huge groups called schools. A shimmering wall of silver would just surround me. Once, a bold little fish even nudged my mask, like he wanted to say hi.
Maybe he was after a friendly kiss. All that action must have worked up your appetite.
Swimming out there makes you so hungry, I swear. The salt, the excitement, the constant movement, you burn through energy fast. By the time I got out, all I could think about was food.
That's perfect, because in the next part, we're going to dive into what you actually eat out on the reef.
Oh, you're in for a treat. Reef food is delicious and kind of surprising, plus, I'll finally explain what a barramundi is.
Stay with us, everyone. In part 4, we'll talk about ocean meals, hidden culinary gems, and, just maybe, a fish you've never heard of.
What an adventure. Here's what stands out for me. First, the right snorkel gear lets you see a whole new world. Second, even little reef creatures like shy clams and clownfish make the experience magical. And third, facing your fears opens you up to beautiful surprises.
If you're dreaming of your own reef trip, here's the next step. Try out some snorkel gear in a pool first. Get comfy breathing underwater. It makes everything easier once you're out there.
And remember, there's a whole garden of life under the surface. Next up, we'll explore how all that swimming leads to fantastic food adventures.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Part 4 is just around the corner. Don't miss it if you're hungry for more. You know that feeling after a wild swim in the ocean, when your stomach suddenly takes over? That was us starving after 2 hours with Nemo and the so-called cat shark.
Seriously, my stomach was actually growling so loudly I thought everyone on the boat could hear it. I climbed up, and boom, there was an incredible smell that instantly made me even hungrier.
Let's be honest, nothing makes you crave food like swimming in the sea. Before we even dried off, we were searching for whatever was making the boat smell so amazing.
And what we found was not just any meal, it was a massive buffet. Picture a table absolutely loaded with food, just waiting for hungry swimmers like us to attack it.
A buffet is the dream, right? All those options, and you can just keep filling your plate. I was honestly a little overwhelmed by how much was there.
The best part for me was the seafood, huge cold prawns right from the ocean. The colors were so vibrant, and they looked almost too pretty to eat.
Wait, prawns aren't those basically shrimp? Or is there a difference? I always get a little confused.
Good question. In Australia, they call them prawns. But yes, They're what a lot of people call shrimp elsewhere. These ones were giant, orange, and you had to peel them yourself, which just made them taste fresher.
Peeling prawns with salty ocean hands feels like the ultimate vacation move. Did they actually taste sweet though? Sometimes fresh seafood is just unbeatable.
They were unbelievably sweet, like little bites of the ocean, but chilled, which was perfect under the hot sun. That combo of cold seafood and a warm breeze is something I'll never forget.
It sounds so refreshing. And I love that you could just squeeze some lemon on top for that extra zing. But I have to ask, what else did you spot on that buffet table?
That's when I found the barramundi. The chef carved a fresh white fillet right in front of me, and I swear, it melted in my mouth like butter.
Barramundi is such a fun word to say, but I've honestly never tried it. What makes it so special compared to other fish?
It's a real Australian classic. Barramundi live in rivers and the sea, so you get this delicate, soft texture with a subtle flavor. Honestly, it disappeared the second it touched my tongue.
I'm so jealous. And I bet you can't have fish in Australia without a side of chips, right?
Absolutely. They served up a mountain of golden, salty chips. There's just something magical about pairing those with fresh fish out on the ocean.
Fish and chips is such a simple meal, but when you're by the sea, it's next level. Did you go back for seconds?
Honestly, I lost count, maybe thirds. And just when I thought I couldn't eat another bite, I spotted something a little more adventurous.
Wait, are we talking about Vegemite now? Because I've heard so many wild stories about it.
Yes, there it was, in a little jar, looking mysterious. The waiter handed me a slice of bread and said, "Go easy, mate." That should have been a warning.
So you tried the Vegemite. Was it anything like you expected? People say it's salty, but is it as intense as everyone claims?
I made the rookie mistake way too much. It hits your taste buds like a wave of pure salt. It's definitely not chocolate, and honestly, it smelled more like soup than anything.
That is not what I would have guessed. So it's more of a love it or hate it situation?
Exactly. Australians grow up loving it, but for most visitors, it's a shock. Still, if you use just a tiny bit, it kind of grows on you. Sort of.
Now, you have to tell me about this whole kangaroo pie thing. I don't know if I could bring myself to try it. Aren't kangaroos just too cute?
That was my reaction at first. But in Australia, there are so many kangaroos that it's actually common. The meat is super lean and healthy, very different from what you might imagine.
So, what did it taste like? People usually say tastes like chicken, but I'm guessing this was more unique.
It's closer to beef, but stronger in flavor. Imagine a savory, hearty filling wrapped in flaky pastry with a thick brown sauce. Super filling, definitely not for the faint of heart.
I have to admit, I'm not sure I'd be brave enough for kangaroo, but I love hearing about people who try everything once. That's part of the adventure, right?
Totally. It's about stepping out of your comfort zone, even if just for a bite. And hey, if kangaroo isn't your thing, there's always barramundi, or just another mountain of chips.
Exactly. The best part is there's always something for every taste. But after all that savory food, I'm dying to know what was for dessert.
Oh, dessert was unforgettable lamingtons, which are basically little chocolate-dipped sponge cakes covered in coconut.
Chocolate and coconut together? That sounds dreamy. Are lamingtons really popular in Australia?
They're a total classic. The sponge cake is so light, and the coconut makes it look like it's covered in snow. Perfect, with a hot cup of tea after all that salty food.
Such a fun way to end a huge meal. I love when dessert feels like a local tradition, not just a sugar rush.
Exactly, it felt like a little celebration at the end of an epic food journey. I honestly savored every bite.
Listening to you walk through all these dishes makes me realize how much food shapes the travel experience. Trying local classics is almost like tasting a new culture.
That's so true. Every bite tells a story. Whether it's something as quirky as Vegemite or as comforting as fish and chips, it makes the memories so much richer.
And it's the unexpected stuff, the strong flavors, the new textures that really stick with you. Even if you don't love everything, it's a story to bring home.
Absolutely. I can't wait to share these stories, and maybe even some snacks, with friends when I get back.
I love the idea of bringing home a taste of your trip, literally. Are you planning to pack any food souvenirs in your suitcase?
You bet. I grabbed a few mini jars of Vegemite, mostly as a dare for my friends, and maybe a pack of lamingtons if they survive the flight home.
That's going to be hilarious. Just imagine everyone's faces when they try Vegemite for the first time.
It's going to be priceless. The best way to keep the adventure going, even after the trip.
Thinking back, was there one Aussie food that really surprised you? Maybe something you didn't expect to love, or even just try?
Honestly, the kangaroo pie was the wildest surprise. I went in a bit nervous, but it was so much tastier than I'd imagined. And even though I wouldn't eat it every day, I'm glad I tried it.
That's the spirit of travel sometimes. You just have to take a bite and see what happens.
Exactly. Every meal was an adventure in itself, and I learned to appreciate even the things I found strange at first.
Food memories are some of the strongest from any trip, don't you think? I know I still remember the taste of meals from years ago.
Same here. There's just something about eating with friends, laughing about weird flavors, and discovering new favorites together that makes it stick.
It's even better when you can make someone laugh with your food reactions, like your epic Vegemite face.
That one's going down in history. Maybe next time I'll manage to eat it without making a face.
You've made me super curious about what else you brought back besides food. Are you going to share what's in your suitcase in our next episode?
Absolutely. From boomerangs to quirky souvenirs, I can't wait to unpack it all. And maybe we'll finally settle on my favorite memory of the whole trip.
That's going to be a fun one. I want to hear all about the treasures you found, and maybe get a recommendation or two for my own trip someday.
Deal. Next time, I'll have all my stories and maybe some surprises ready for you.
Before we wrap up, let's hit the highlights. First, swimming works up an appetite, and Australia's seafood buffet doesn't disappoint. Second, being open to local dishes like Vegemite or kangaroo can make your trip much more memorable. And third, dessert always matters. Never skip a lamington.
Exactly. And if you're traveling, our one action step, be bold. Even if it's just a tiny taste, you might surprise yourself with what you love, or at least earn a great story. Thanks for joining us on this delicious adventure.
Can't wait for our next and final episode, where we'll rummage through souvenirs and share favorite memories. See you all soon for the grand finale.
See you then, and bring your appetite for stories. There's still plenty to share.
Did you know the best shopping in Cairns happens after dark? I just had to ask Sophie about her pre-flight spree, because those night markets are legendary.
Honestly, Lily, the night market is a whole experience. It doesn't even open until 5 p.m., so it feels like the city comes alive all over again. Stalls everywhere, bright lights, and crowds looking for treasures.
That actually reminds me of markets I've seen in Southeast Asia. Was it the same sort of energy?
It's close. Super colorful, tons of little shops, and you hear so many languages. But this one is packed with things that scream Australia, from hats to didgeridoos.
I love a good souvenir hunt, but how do you actually pick something that feels truly Australian and not just touristy junk?
I always look for things you couldn't buy at home. That's why the boomerang caught my eye. There were shelves of them, but each one was hand-painted and felt unique.
So, not just a generic trinket, but something with some meaning and style. That's smart.
Exactly. And the designs told stories, so it felt like I was taking home a little piece of culture, not just a thing.
Let's talk about that boomerang. I always wondered, do they really fly back like in cartoons?
That's the legend. Mine was more decorative, but the real ones are crafted just right to return. And every single one at the market had these incredible dot paintings, so much detail.
Those dot patterns are so mesmerizing. It makes it more than just a toy or tool.
Totally. And the art itself is ancient. Some stall owners explain the meaning behind the patterns, like which animal or story it represents.
I'm fascinated by Aboriginal art. You mentioned thousands of tiny dots in reds and yellows. Can you tell us more about how it's created?
Sure. The technique has been used for thousands of years. They use natural ochre paint and tiny sticks or fingers. Sometimes each dot stands for a part of a story, like a water hole or animal path.
So when you look at a boomerang or painting, you're actually reading a story without words.
Exactly. It's almost like a secret language, and each color has meaning too. It made the souvenir feel so much more alive.
Food gifts are always a win. What made you pick macadamia nuts for your mom?
She loves foods you can't find everywhere, and in Australia, macadamias are everywhere: sweet, salty, roasted, even covered in chocolate. They melt in your mouth.
I can almost taste them just hearing you describe it.
And it's a little healthier than bringing home a suitcase of candy, though I was tempted.
Stuffed animals are classic for a reason. Why did a koala make the cut for your brother?
He's got a collection going at home, and let's face it, koalas are the definition of cute. The plushies at the market looked so real, with fuzzy noses and sleepy eyes.
Did he love it?
He held it for hours. It was like bringing a piece of the trip back for him.
Okay, I have to know, did you actually see a koala in the wild?
I did, but not exactly in the wild. There was this small nature park on the edge of the city, and you could spot them sleeping in the trees. Some barely budged the whole time I watched.
20 hours of sleep is hard to believe until you see it.
It made me wish I could nap like that after all the travel.
I bet your suitcase was just about ready to burst after all that shopping.
Oh, it was a battle. I had to sit on it while zipping up, hoping nothing got squashed. You could hear the crunch of snacks inside.
I think every traveler has had that moment, fingers crossed, the zipper holds.
And the fear of the airport scale. I was sweating at check-in.
Looking back, with all those adventures and surprises, what was truly your favorite moment, not just a place, but a feeling?
It's tough to choose, but I keep going back to that time floating in the ocean. The silence, the space, just me and the reef. It felt like stepping out of the world's chaos for a while.
That kind of peace is rare. You can't bottle it, but it stays with you.
Even now, I can almost hear the water and see the colors if I close my eyes.
It sounds magical, but also bittersweet. Did seeing the reef up close make you think about its future?
Absolutely. It's so beautiful, but I kept hearing how fragile it is, how warming seas are making the coral sick and white.
There's something sobering about realizing how quickly things can change, especially for places like that.
It made me really grateful to have seen it, but also aware that we can't take these wonders for granted.
You mentioned the reef is fragile. Can you share what that actually means in day-to-day terms for visitors?
Sure. Even touching the coral can hurt it, and sunscreen can leave behind chemicals. Guides kept reminding us, look, don't touch, and definitely don't stand on the reef.
It's wild how something so big can be so delicate at the same time.
Exactly. And it really changes how you act as a visitor. You want to protect what you've come to admire.
That responsibility is key. Did your view of travel change after being there?
I think so. I went to see something beautiful, but I left wanting to help keep it that way. Even little choices, like not touching or picking up trash, make a difference.
And sharing those tips helps too. Sometimes travelers just don't know the rules until someone explains.
That's why I always tell friends, see with your eyes, leave only footprints.
After a trip like that, what's the best way to keep the experience alive once you're home?
For me, it's all about sharing stories. Those little souvenirs spark conversations, and the photos bring it all back. But honestly, talking about it helps me remember the feelings most.
It's amazing how telling a story can make you relive the whole adventure.
And maybe inspire someone else to see the world too, or at least to dream about it.
Speaking of sharing, I love when our listeners chime in with their favorite moments or questions. It feels like we're all traveling together.
Totally. Every message or comment is like another piece of the journey. It's cool to see what details people connect with. Sometimes it's the food, sometimes an animal, sometimes just a funny travel mishap.
It makes each episode a real conversation, not just a story.
And I always end up learning something new from our listeners too.
So, time to wrap up our Great Barrier Reef adventure. My 3 biggest takeaways. First, real souvenirs carry stories. Second, nature's beauty is fragile and needs us to be careful. And third, the most powerful memories often come from quiet, peaceful moments.
And if you do one thing after listening, let it be this wherever you travel next. Be mindful of how you treat the places and creatures you meet. Look, learn, but leave them as you found them.
I love that. Thanks for sharing your journey and your heart with us. And thanks to everyone who listened and learned along the way.
This was so much fun. I hope you all get to make your own adventures, and remember to tell us what your favorite part was in the comments.